Police in Buffalo, New York, shoved an elderly man to the ground who was absolutely not a threat to them. He posed no threat. And the video featuring what happened to this 75-year-old elderly man was just so heartbreaking and difficult to watch. It's incredibly graphic, but I think it really reveals quite a bit about the culture of policing in America. I want to give you as many warnings as possible. The video we're about to show you is graphic. It's difficult to watch, but I do want you to pay attention to what the cops do to this elderly man, but more importantly, what happens after they discover that he needs help. Take a look.
He is bleeding! He's out of his ear! He's bleeding out of his ear! He's bleeding out of his ear! Get a medic! What the f*** you walking up on me? I'm gonna grab! Get the f*** away! Y'all don't want this!
Back up! Back up! Get off the steps! Let's go! Get back! Get back!
Better get an ambulance for him.
We have EMT on scene.
So they had no interest in helping him, as you can see in that video. He was bleeding from his ear. Again, 75-year-old man. And they were far more interested in arresting a protester who was there, as opposed to helping him as he was laying there bleeding from his ear. Cenk, before I go to you, I just want to show one other angle to what happened. And the audio in this video is difficult because you can literally hear his head hitting the ground. Again, it's graphic. Let's go. So he survived that injury. He's in critical yet stable condition, and that video definitely killed a part of me. Like a little tiny part of me is gone. Like just that part of you that believes that there's some good in humanity. Watching something like that, watching their like nonchalant attitude towards someone who's literally on the ground bleeding from their ear, an elderly person who was not a threat to them at all. And just a little while earlier, by the way, you have the exact same cop, not the exact same cops who pushed him necessarily, but you have the same police department posing in pictures, kneeling with protesters as if they're the good guys. Please, everyone who's listening to this right now, stop doing the police's PR for them. It is a PR move to do these pictures where they're kneeling with protesters. Okay, it's the same police department that did that. And then immediately afterwards, you see videos like this where they brutalize innocent people, including 75-year-olds who pose no threat to them. Yeah. I can't get over how disgusting this whole situation is.
Okay, so we have super important updates on the police officers involved and the gentleman involved. His name is Martin Gugino, and I'm going to explain to you why he's an American hero, not for getting pushed down, but for the work that he has done up until now. And you're going to love some of his work and some of his quotes. But first on the video. So it's past curfew. They tell the officers to line up. They had been a lot, again, same police department talking to the protesters peacefully earlier in the day. And some of them had left. And then the others, once you go past curfew, it is some form of civil disobedience. So when that happens, very often you're willing to be arrested, and you get arrested without putting up any kind of fight. I've been involved in movements like that. And so the protesters that you saw, that's about what there was. So there's very few folks left. They knew what the situation was. So cops line up in Gestapo lines, and they do. It looks like a military stormtrooper Gestapo type of situation, and they're chanting or whatever they're doing and shouting out orders. And then they march like Gestapo, and then they act like Gestapo. And the most important part is, as Anna pointed out, a couple of the stormtroopers have a human moment for a second. You see it in the second video too, where the guy goes like, ooh, and he looks and stuff. But no, they get the orders. You must proceed. We don't care about humans. Our job is to crush them and show them how tough we are and how they can never disobey our authority under any circumstance. Because that is what the stormtroopers were taught. So now we go to the updates. So 2 of the officers are suspended. Anna can give you more of the details, but 57 of the other officers involved, are so outraged by the suspension that they say, oh, that's it. We're all resigning from this unit. First of all,
Good riddance. Trash. All of them. Every single one of them. Garbage. They deserve to be jobless, okay? For that complete disregard for human life. That man's my dad's age. Disgusting. Oh, they think they're so tough and they're so brave for resigning in solidarity. You're garbage. All of them are criminals for warranting and sanctioning this type of behavior. Who knows how many people they've murdered? Innocent people.
Yeah. So I have that take, but also a second one. So the cops are outraged that they're not allowed to crack the skulls of 75-year-olds. Just absolutely outraged. They're like, are you kidding me? How can we do this job if you don't let us viciously attack innocent civilians? But the second part of it is they're right that that's the orders they were given, and that is what they're taught to do. So I don't want society now turning around and saying, oh, it's only 57 bad apples. No, we told them to be brutal. So what I'm asking society to do is to stop asking the cops to be brutal. And you can tell it from the reaction that you see on TV. I think a lot of the really well-paid anchors, which is almost all of them, are genuinely shocked. Like I think they really didn't know what cops were doing to poor people, middle-class people, minorities. Because when cops interact with people that have higher status, you think they push down cable news anchors into the pavement and crack their skulls? No. When they interact with them, they're obsequious. And they're like, oh, do you need any help? Can I carry your bags? What can I do? And so the experience that rich people have with cops is that cops protect them and are wonderful to them. So I think those wealthy Americans are genuinely shocked to see video of cops doing what cops normally do to the rest of us. So I'm glad they saw it, and I'm glad it appears that some of them care a little bit. But yes, millions of African Americans have not been lying this whole time. Yes, that's what cops do to them all the time. And yes, they also do it to other people. So who do they do it to? They do it most to minorities. Of the minorities, they do it most to African Americans. And this is not just anecdotal. It's not just a video that we're showing you recently. It is borne out by all the statistics. But they also do it to poor people. They also do it not to right-wing protesters, not to all protesters. Right-wing protesters are put on a pedestal. Oh, you want to come and point weapons at us? Of course, sir. You have Second Amendment rights, sir. You do. Oh, you want to take over federal property? Well, we'll leave you there for months, sir. Of course, sir. You do anything you like, sir, because the right-wing white males in this run this country or historically have run this country. That's why they're so mad. That's why they love Donald Trump so much. Because they think maybe we can reverse it. Oh, we hated when the black guy was in charge. We hated the idea that we don't run everything. But another category that the cops regularly pummel and assault with impunity is left-wing protesters. Oh, you're against an oil pipeline. You're against my boss making money. How dare you? We'll crack your skull, tear gas, etc. We'll make it illegal to protest. You're a 75-year-old. I don't give a damn. Okay, you'll bleed out from the ear, and we won't even call for help. Did you notice in the first video how much more the police prioritize getting the video camera shut down than they did in treating the guy bleeding out? And
to shut that down, and also to arrest a protester. That's what their priorities were. As someone was on the floor bleeding from his ear, That's what they were concerned about.
Yeah, and I got more on Martin, and I know you got more. But the final thought on that piece of it is, look, we did teach them that. You got to own that. You got to own that, because if you don't own it, you're not going to change it. So don't tell me that you're outraged by the 2 cops who shoved him. You're outraged by Derek Chauvin, who was on George Floyd's neck. You're outraged by the 57 people who resigned. No, you should be outraged by the culture of policing in the entire country. It doesn't mean all the cops are bad guys. I know some people think that, right? No, it means that we authorize and encourage them to be brutal to certain groups in America. So it's incumbent upon us to end it. For God's sake, end it. And if a politician that you put in office does not make it a top priority to retrain the police and just say it, police culture in this country is wrong. It's wrong. Don't give me this BS about how police are on a pedestal and they're awesome and there's God's gift to humanity, and then turn around and say, oh, golly gee, did they crack another skull of a left-wing protester or a black person? Oh, man, I'm outraged. No, you're not. Unless you hold the politicians accountable and throw their asses out and throw out the police chiefs and the police union heads and all those guys and rechange the culture, you are responsible. And I got a lot where that came from.
No more. I'm not interested in caveats anymore. I should have known, because you want to be a reasonable person and you don't want to, paint an entire group of people in a broad way and accuse them of things that, because, I have a cop in my family and I know this person closely and I know that this is a good person. And so I refuse to buy into this notion that all cops are bad, right? But when you really think about it, Cenk, how many of these people have been quiet? How many of the so-called good cops have been quiet or have covered up for their colleagues or have made excuses for all of the violence we've been experiencing for so long at the hands of local police departments, right? And I'm not having that conversation anymore. No caveats. The entire system is rotted to the core, okay? Where the worst thing you can do as a fellow cop is call out one of your colleagues for brutality. That's the worst thing you can do. 57 people who watch a video like that and they think, no, that was awesome. That was awesome. We stand in solidarity with these 2 cops who should not be suspended right now. They should not only be fired, they should be facing serious criminal charges. That man was not a threat to them at all. 75 years old. He had a helmet. He had a police helmet in his hand. I don't know if he was intending on, maybe he picked up a police helmet. He wanted to hand it to one of the cops. But that man was not a threat. And the fact that you have all these dozens of cops right now saying, no, that was totally okay. In fact, we're so outraged that people are outraged that we're going to quit in solidarity.
Yeah.
This whole system is rotten to the core, period. If you're a cop and you consider yourself a good cop, but you've been sitting in silence, you're part of the garbage that we're against right now, at least that I'm against right now. Because that is exactly what has empowered this rotten system, right? The so-called good cops who just stood by and allowed it to happen because they were too cowardly to call out their trash colleagues.
Yeah. So I'll actually go further. So right now, including 2 that were suspended, 57 that resigned from that division of the police force, don't get it wrong. They're all still on the job. They're just saying, oh, I don't want to do that anymore if you don't let me have fun and kick 75-year-olds' asses. I'd like to get another job, but you keep paying me in the meanwhile. No, they should all be fired immediately. You resigned. I gave you a job. You chose not to do that job. There's no further conversation. Can you imagine at your work? You're like, oh, yeah, you hired me to do this job, but I don't want to. I want to do another job. So you keep paying me while I do nothing for the moment being, and I'm protesting you. No, you're fired. Good night. Bye-bye. Clean up your stuff. Go home. Clean up. Go home. They should all be fired immediately. Immediately. You resigned. You don't get to resign from the kind of job the job you were assigned to, and maybe later you give me another job. No, you're gone. You're all fired. Okay? But even more importantly, of course, fire the police chief and impeach the mayor, because they all were part of a system where the 57 cops thought, well, you told me to crack skulls. And I'm so outraged that I don't get to crack skulls that I'm willing to throw my weight around and have moral outrage that you won't let me do this. Well, then obviously they were taught to do that. They were taught to do that. You have to fire everyone who taught them to do that and get someone else who actually wants to police the whole community and not just the privileged. Okay, now one other part of that is so important that we did not touch on. The original police statement about that incident before the video came out was that a protester tripped and fell. Okay, so although the incident took place outside Buffalo City Hall in daylight and full view of witnesses, including at least 5 journalists, the Buffalo Police Department initially said in a statement that, quote, during a skirmish involving protesters, one person was injured when he tripped and fell. Okay, cops in general are liars. They lie all the time. They lie as a regular course of action. Is it because they're unique human beings who are prone to lie? No, it's the culture. They're taught to lie for each other. It's called thin blue line. So when one cop does something terrible, he's not a bad apple. All the apples go, oh yeah, let's all perjure ourselves, lie to reporters, lie to the public, lie to everyone. There's a culture of, yeah, we cover up every crime that every cop ever does. What do you think thin blue line means? Thin blue line means we get to break the law, we get to crush everything in our path, and evade accountability by lying through our teeth. If you see a cop on a witness stand and they're testifying about police abuse, you should assume 100% that they're lying. Unless they're saying the cop actually did it, it would be shocking if they weren't lying. And are we still, you see, the core of the problem and why we're so upset is because at this late date, you turn on local news and oftentimes cable news. What you'll hear is credulous anchors saying, now everybody remember, the cops are wonderful and they're always tell the truth and they're always here to protect you, but we had this one incident and blah, blah. No. And media, stop lying on their behalf. You do. You know why? Because you're friends with cops and cops protect you and you're among the privileged. But they don't treat the rest of us that way. So this is not abnormal. What happened in Buffalo happens in every city, every day, by all the police that we have trained to be both brutal and serial liars.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.